Dave Beavers, and welcome to Module Number 1 in the Introduction of Leadership 101. Now, this module answers a question: what is leadership? Now, I'm excited you're here because in this targeted training, I want to take you through a journey of discovering your identity as a leader and to help you better understand the true responsibility and the essence of leadership. Several years ago, John Maxwell wrote a book called Good Leaders Ask Great Questions. Now, in each of the first 6 modules of this training, I'm going to begin with a question for you, a question to answer that can help you lead others in a way that will impact yourself and others in a more positive and impactful way. Now, today's question is, again, what is leadership? Now, what does that word mean to you? Now, as you think through what it means to you, I want to explain to you why we define leadership development as a process of growing through 5 different levels. Now, the first level is position, and it asks the question, who are you? The second level is permission. This asks, who are you leading? Now, the third level is the production level, and this asks, what is your win? The fourth level is people development. Who's your successor? Who are you planning to pass the leadership baton to? And finally, we get to the 5th level, which is pinnacle. And this question asks, what is your legacy? I'm going to ask you again, what does the word leadership mean to you? Now, before diving into the next 5 modules and the 5 levels of leadership, let's go ahead and define the term leadership. Let's hear what the expert on leadership says about it. Now, John Maxwell, author of over 100 personal growth and leadership books, says, leadership is influence. Nothing more, nothing less. Now, let me say that again. Leadership is influence, nothing more and nothing less. Now, sure, leadership probably includes all the things you said. Things like managing others, character, good communication, and much, much more. But when it boils down to it, leadership at its basic function is influencing others to accomplish something they never believed they could. Now, that's much different in function than management. Management at its basic function is getting others to do what you want. Now, management is much more about control. Now, don't get me wrong, both are essential and they have their role. But good leadership helps others do the right thing, even when you're not there to control them and their actions. Let's look in your participant guide at statement number 1. Influence is the beginning and the end of leadership. But that doesn't always mean our influence is going to be good, does it? Now let's look at statement number 2. Anyone who gets others to follow them is a leader. They are, in other words, influencing others for the good or the bad. Now let's think about a few different famous leaders. There are leaders like Hitler, Stalin, and Osama bin Laden. And then there are leaders like Winston Churchill, Mother Teresa, and Martin Luther King. Now I'd say there's a huge gap in the kind of results achieved by these 2 types of leaders, wouldn't you? Well, let's think about it. Each of these people got huge results, so it's evident they had influence, actually a lot of influence with a lot of people. But their end results determine what kind of leader they actually were and the legacy that they left behind. All of them used their influence to inspire the people they were leading by finding what was already in those people to carry out their agenda. Some used anger and hate to wreak mass havoc, while others drew on people's higher values to bring about good for mankind. Can we agree that what the world needs today is leadership that's worth following? Well, that's going to require a process of people growing through the 5 levels of leadership. Now, there really are no shortcuts in that process. Now, the sad thing is that most leaders are not even aware of these 5 levels, and it requires growing through those levels and the process that it's going to call for. Too often, when leaders hit a snag or hit the wall in their growth, they often fall back to relying on their position to lead from. Now, when this happens, their influence is always going to take a turn for the worst, and that means everybody suffers. Positional leadership is actually the lowest level of leadership, no matter what the title or the position. Now think about this. Everybody has some influence with somebody. You have influence. Now this means you're a leader on some level. And because you are a leader, I want to add value to you, even if you don't think you're a leader yet. Now, I know that as you take time to dig into these lessons and assess yourself with each of the 5 levels and make it your goal to grow on each level, you're going to see positive growth. Why? Well, because as you do, you'll be adding value to yourself, which will enable you to add more value to more people. In other words, your positive influence will expand to more people. Now, that's the goal, right? To help more people live better, including yourself and your family. Now, let's look again in your guide at statement number 3. Leadership development is a process, not just elevating your position. Now, position gives you a platform. Developing yourself increases your influence, and that's what leadership is all about. Good leadership is taking that positive influence and bringing positive change into your world. Now let's look at statement number 4. We often think of leadership in the wrong way when we think good leadership is more about external accomplishments rather than the internal disciplines and the commitments to the people that we lead. Good leadership is actually more about what's inside a leader than what they do or that they portray. Let's talk about the importance of how developing the leader within you is critical to help you change your perspective about why you should grow as a leader. Now, in a survey done in Africa of 1,000 kids before they graduated, discovered that 76% of those kids didn't want to be a leader when they graduated. 76%. Now, when asked what leadership meant to them, they described it as corruption, manipulation, and looking out for yourself. No wonder. It was the only model they'd ever been exposed to. Now, after only 16 weeks of those same students being involved with a youth leadership program called I Lead, they answered the question of what leadership meant to them this time as service, gratitude, significance, and putting others first. Now, when asked how many of them would now like to be a leader, 84% said yes. What a paradigm shift. So remember, personal growth is a key component to becoming a more effective leader. Now, let's look again in your guide. Statement number 5 says, when you begin to develop skills and determine to grow to become a better leader, day after day, year after year, you'll begin making a difference in the lives of others today. Now, the question of the who and how many you'll influence is always going to start with yourself. Growing it each and every day has a compounding effect. And if you know anything about compounding interest, it's almost like a miracle, isn't it? Now, the same principle goes for growing yourself. Lead yourself better because it's always required before leading others better. And also remember, the most important person you'll ever lead is yourself. To become a leader others want to follow and should follow, it requires for most of us to make a major paradigm shift. This requires that we shift our focus from becoming bigger on the outside to become more impressive, to becoming bigger on the inside, to become more impactful. Because when we do, our influence will begin to flow naturally rather than trying to force our leadership onto others. This is number 6 in your guide, but let me tell you what the Maxwell style and brand of leadership believes that makes us distinctive. First of all, the reason we lead is because we value all people. Values are important, and valuing people is the only way to lead effectively. We also believe everyone deserves to be led well. We also believe that growth is infinite. There is no, quote, goal line to personal growth. The main reason for growing is not just for accomplishment, but to be better able to add more value to others. In other words, to be intentional about bettering ourselves today so we will be better for others tomorrow. Now, we also believe we need to understand the difference between personal success and significance, and to move from just pursuing our own personal success to that significance. In other words, using our own success to adding value to others who are reaching for their success. So remember, success is what happens to and for you, but significance is what happens through you. Here's your roadmap for becoming an even better leader. Now, this map is simple, but it's not always easy. We always need to remember that the foundation of leadership is values. The world becomes a better place when people become better leaders. So get better and be better. Become a person worth following. Now, once you start, The growth you'll begin to experience will challenge you to become even better. Now, do you agree that people deserve to be led well? Well, if so, let's grow our potential as a leader so we can lead other people to find and reach their potential. That's what it's all about. That's what leadership is about. Now, I hope you're as excited as I am as we head into the next module. Now, your whole paradigm of what leadership is and what it should look like is going to be transformed. The following 5 modules will help you grow in understanding and influence as you learn the 5 levels of leadership. Let's go.